Budget in the context of any organization, public or private, can be defined as a systematic or well-organized expression of proposal for expenditure on the one hand and estimation of receipts on the other towards the accomplishment of certain objectives or goals. And budget is prepared for a definite period of time. It may be 1 year or even more than whatever, generally 1 year. And budgeting is one of the essential activities of all organization, because it is through budgeting, or I mean to say, by preparing a budget, you decide the scope of activities of that organization, that what you are going to do and what you are not going to do in the coming year. You make an objective assessment of your performance of the last year. You appreciate the contemporary realities, and accordingly you plan out how things are going to be taken, how you are going to respond to what are the kind of problems, and how you are going to avail of the opportunities. So budgeting is one of the essential activities of any organization. So there are three important things regarding budgeting. The first, the budgeting includes some kind of estimates, facts and figures regarding the scope of economic activities. On the one hand, you decide regarding expenditure. On the other hand, you decide where from the money would come. So how the money is going to be spent for the year to come and where from that money would come. And then you strike fine balance between the two. Second thing that is important is the time period. Time period is important. It is for 1 year. So you have to design your course of action. You have to decide the course of action. You have to decide the limits of those activities to be carried out within the time period of 1 year. So you have a time period, and then as I discussed, that proposal for expenditure and estimation of receipts. And the third thing which is important for budgeting is involvement of institutions and agencies. So you have institutions and agencies, you have a time period within the bounds of which things are to be decided. And what is decided? The first thing, proposal for expenditure and estimation of receipts. So on the face of it, it appears that the budget is concerned with facts and figures, expenditure, receipt, etc. But you examine in detail, you will find that factual expression of budget, outward expression of these facts are the outcome of a complex interplay of many factors and many important decisions. I mean to say that there can be, you can see the quantitative expression of budget, but this quantitative expression is orchestrated by some qualitative aspects of budget, some important decisions. So budget is not only about facts and figures. Your budget, I mean to say the qualitative side of it, it clearly reflects, it shows to what extent the government is sensitive to one or other problems in the society, and what course of action the government has chosen, what kind of ideology the government is inspired by to deal with one of the kind of problems or to avail of opportunities, whether the government is tilted more towards socialist ideals or capitalist ideals, how the government is going to negotiate with the conflict of interest taking place, on conflict of interest in the economy, in the society, how the government is, how the government proposes to generate employment opportunities or to deal with one or other problems related to different sectors of economy. So budget is not only a quantitative expression of receipt and expenditure, there is a qualitative dimension of it. Budget shows that how the government has decided to deal with the problems and challenges at the global level. Budget suggests that the government has chosen this particular course of action to negotiate with the global realities, how to make the things favorable to us. So therefore, budget is not only quantitative, aspect, because it's not a quantitative expression of just receipt and expenditure. Behind that, you have many important decisions. What is the philosophy of governance? What is the ideological inclination of the government? Which pattern of response or what pattern of response the government has chosen to deal with one of the problems, reconciliatory skills of the government, how the government is going to balance, strike balance between fact-centric decisions and value-centric decisions, how the government has managed the imperatives of sustaining its political power, and on the other hand, the imperatives of, complying with some fundamental principles of economics and commerce. So you are required to take some factual decisions, then on the other hand, you are required to take some value-centric decisions. If you take too many decisions guided by the things other than facts, more value-centric decisions, then it may be a popular budget, but it may not be a people-oriented budget. It may not be in the interest of society at large in long term. And if you are governed only by facts, economics and commerce, then there is a possibility that economists and they will be experts will be happy, but this budget may not go well with the public at large. Public may not appreciate your tough long-term decisions. They would be looking for something more popular. So how you manage the things, populist decisions on the one hand, and people-oriented decisions on the other hand. You have to strike balance between pleasant and good. So if you take tough decisions, in the short term it may not be so much pleasant, but in the long term it will be in the interest of economy. And if you take people-oriented decision, a tough decisions, so in the short term you are going to be beaten up black and blue by the people. You have to sustain yourself politically, and on the other hand you have to sustain yourself economically. So you have to take good care of economy on the one hand, and on the other hand you have to think of political viability and feasibility as well. That makes budget making a very difficult exercise, more particularly in the wake of increasingly globalizing world. Now, those who are involved in budget making exercises, they are required to appreciate not only the domestic problems, they are required to understand and appreciate the global challenges, problems, opportunities as well. Because your budget, your decisions in the budget is a policy document of the government, you can say. So what kind of decisions you are taking within budget will have implications not only for the people in your economy, in your society, it will have huge implications for the foreign investors as well. So various decisions taken in the budget also suggest how the government has proposed to deal with the global realities and challenges. So the scope of budget making, thematic content I am talking about, has undergone a lot of expansion. You have to take into consideration things within the bounds of the country, and then you have to respond to many things happening globally. So we are going to affect others, and we are going to be affected by others. Taking into consideration this vast complex matrix of interdependency, you are required to prepare your budget. Budget is also known as fiscal policy. So budget is not merely a quantitative expression of receipt and expenditure. There is a qualitative dimension of budget which is more important. So it means, first of all, the intent of the government, the vision of the government, intent of the government, ideological orientation of the government, all such things hold a lot of significance, and accordingly you see the facts and figures of the budget ostensibly. So what happens in the budget? On the face of it, you have facts and figures, but these facts and figures are orchestrated by a more qualitative dimensional side of the budgeting. So what is the intent of the government? How the government, what is the perception of various problems, in the society on the part of the government? So their perception, their ideological inclination, their understanding and their strategy, their political ideology, and many things, circumstantial factors, all such things, political feasibility, economic feasibility, all such things are required to be taken into consideration, and then you prepare a budget. And budget in totality includes three important spheres of activities. You have policy making, you take some policy decisions, and then implementation, that is execution of budget, and the third component is accountability. So policy making and policy implementation and the enforcement of accountability. These are the three different spheres of activities which contribute in the budgetary process. Once clear? So budget is a part of financial administration. Remember, budget is a part of financial administration. Financial administration has a broader scope, but budget interestingly carries all the three attributes of financial administration. That is fiscal policy, fiscal management, and fiscal accountability. You have a sphere of activity where you have intellectuals, top experts, economists, political leadership, administrative leadership. They take policy decisions that where from money would come and how this money is going to be spent. They decide the comparative significance of different items of expenditure to be taken and comparative significance of the different sources of revenue. So revenue receipt or capital receipt, revenue expenditure, capital expenditure, and then they decide how to strike fine balance, keeping uppermost in mind the larger interest of the society. What is clear? So this is the zone of policy making. It demands application of the understanding of principles of economics and the commerce. It requires a lot of prudence. It requires ability to interpret things from the contemporary realities, to learn something from the past. It requires a lot of diagnostic and therapeutic skill. And then the second group of activities, sphere of activities, management, which is related to implementing the budget. So you collect revenue on the one hand as per the provisions of budget, and then you spend money as per the provisions of the budget as it has been decided. Getting a point? And between the two, safe custody of funds. And the third important activity related to budgeting is enforcement of accountability. You have institutions like CAG or the parliamentary committees. They are involved in examining whether or not budget which was passed by the legislature, whether or not that budget or budgetary provisions were implemented in literal spirit by the government. If there is any kind of deviation, if there is a deviation from the original intent, it is identified and it is reported to the president. Once clear? So you have policy making, and you have implement of fiscal policy making, fiscal policy, fiscal management, and fiscal accountability. This is the zone of Ministry of Finance. Then again, the bureaucracy and several administrative agencies are involved in fiscal management, and you have Office of CAG and the parliamentary committees involved in enforcement of accountability. You decide, you implement, and your accountability is enforced. These are the three important activities, spheres of activities which come within the bounds of budgeting. I hope the point is clear. Entire budgeting revolves around the management of three funds. Very simple. You have one super consolidated fund of India, and then on the other hand you have a contingency fund, and then on this side you have public accounts. Three funds. Details are required to be given by the government regarding all the three funds, but the most important one is consolidated fund, which is subjected to rigorous analysis, and then criticism or appreciation, whatever you say. So it revolves around three funds. It involves three important activities. One clear? This is all about budgeting in brief. Details will be available in the next class. Thank you.